The prehistory of the zipper comes with the hook and eye fastener, which dates from medieval times. The hook and eye fastener was invented in the 14th century, so I can remember that's the earliest reference to it, and eventually got put on tapes. Now, also, the actual inventor of the zip is not the first person to think of it. The first one to think of it was the sewing machine pioneer Elias Howe, who was able to think of a fastener which had large slide-like things like the bit on the bottom of the box and pin, and actually didn't end up marketing it because he was making more money from sewing machines. Now, the first person who actually invented the zip was Whitcomb Judson in 1891. He invented it in order for it to be a quick closing for women's boots, and it appeared in the Chicago World Fair in 1893, but there wasn't much interest in it. So after that, the first actual use of the zip was in, other than on boots, was in flying jackets, where they were found actually to be stronger than the fabric that they were being used to fasten together in the First World War by the US Army. After that time, a man called Gideon Sundback, who had been bereaved of his wife, concentrated. He threw himself into his work, basically, and he ended up creating a zip which had 10 teeth per inch, rather than the previous 4 teeth per inch. Also, the early zips were not washable, and because they would have gone rusty, because they were made of like ordinary iron, as opposed to stainless steel. So, after that, they were mainly used sort of as a concealed fastener until Elsa Schiaparelli in 1930 started to make a beach jacket where the pockets were closed with zips. That was the first person to use a non-concealed zip, but at the time they were only one-ended, they didn't have this arrangement. So, instead of them being fastened like that, they would also zip up from the bottom where they were already joined together. After that point, they became open-ended and began to be marketed as a way of making children self-sufficient in being able to fasten their clothes. At that time, they were actually banned, apparently, in the US, so I've heard, because they were considered to be too revealing. Aldous Huxley also used them as a symbol in Brave New World, and I'll talk about symbolism in a minute. So, there are 3 main types. There's the ordinary, old-fashioned metal zip like that, which is a loading closure which relies on teeth which are cut from something called an SL wasteless machine. There are the plastic moulded zips like that. Those are mimics, and they're probably the newest kind. There's another plastic moulded zip there. And then after that you've got your coil zips. Coil zips are easier to produce because they are spirals, basically helices coming out of machines. Now, as far as the actual technological impact of the zip is concerned, they mean that they reduce self-sufficiency, and they mean that you have to replace everything on the clothing if they're wasted and put in a whole new one, as opposed to buttons which can be replaced more easily. And also they rely on technology and machinery mass production rather too much. So they're not a terribly wonderful self-sufficient solution. And the symbolism is basically of machine age, modernism, and self-sufficiency. Not self-sufficiency, speed. And that's where you come to. So there you go.